There is a new series on Disney Plus Hotstar. It's called Interior Chinatown. It's based on a novel by Charles Yu, who also serves as the showrunner on this TV series, which is a rarity, mind you. The person who ends up writing the novel rarely has this much to do with its adaptation, but in this case, he does. And Bahir, it's actually quite different from his own novel.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
interesting thing. Actually, even more interesting than that, Interior Chinatown, as in INT Chinatown, as in what you see in a screenplay, is the title because his book is written in the form of a screenplay. And you would imagine that that would be something easy to adapt to screen. But if you read the book, you realize how complex that actually is.
Oh, interesting.
And so what Charles Yu has done is changed the plot ever so slightly. So in the novel, it centers around Willis Wu, who is, in inverted commas, generic Asian man who is stuck playing background Oriental male.
Okay,
What he wants to be is Kung Fu Guy
sure.
because Kung Fu Guy has global appeal.
The book is set around Willis being an actor in Hollywood.
He is already an actor in Hollywood and he is always a background character, background Asian character.
Sure. Yeah,
The
okay.
TV series kind of flips that a little bit, in which your main character, played by Jimmy O Yang, is actually a worker in a restaurant who longs for a more exciting life. And so that, I think, works better for a TV series because when you read the book, you realize, no pun intended, there's a lot of interiority with regards to the character and what he's thinking and what he's doing. I think the series works better with this POV. That said, I think the book is a lot sharper and the book is also a lot more stinging in its criticism of the industry, of the role of Asians, etc., etc.
The cat in the hat here being that the show is executive produced and the pilot was directed by Taika Waititi. And I feel like that first episode has got Waititi all over it, for better or for worse. I found myself really intrigued by the concept. However, I felt like the delivery made it, I don't know about confusing, but the delivery was a little too funny, fun for my liking.
Interesting.
Literally, there are some portions of this show, I've seen the first 2 episodes, and there are some portions of the show that feel like bits. And I found them funny, but also kind of distracting. For example, when the 2 detectives show up, it was like, oh, that's cute, but how does this fit into the story? There's one bit in the second episode when Willis is trying to go to the police station and he is constantly rebuffed, he is constantly pushed aside. There was a moment where I thought to myself, is Willis dead? Is he being kept out of here because of some magical, mystical process? So for me, it was that. That was the problem. And now that you've described the original being about an actor, I'm like, oh, okay.
I think you need to give it time because I think it'll explain itself.
Okay.
So it's one of those shows where throughout the series, you have no idea what is a part of Willis's imagination and what is reality.
Yes.
And so all of that I thought was done very cleverly through lighting, music, altered perspectives. You get all of that in the first episode. It's all introduced to you. Although you're right in that it's quite confusing, but I think intentionally so, because you're supposed to be left going, wait, is this real? Or is this in his head? Is he actually fighting these people in the restaurant? Or is it an act of imagination? Does he think he's in a movie?
Again, there were bits here that I really, really love. Like how Willis he is literally the background character in the TV show Black and White. Air quotes, police procedural Black and White. That was funny as all hell. There was a moment when the 2 detectives of that air quotes TV show is having a conversation at the street corner and he's just sort of the worst background actor ever. And I thought that was hilarious. But then I kept getting kicked out of the show because there were these weird sort of Waititi-esque moments that felt jarring to where the show was. And sure, if it gets explained later, fantastic, because I'm still watching it. But that felt really aggravating as an audience. It felt like the show is really making me work hard to keep watching.
For me, I completely love it. I think it's one of the best things on TV.
Oh,
but
okay.
only because I've read the book and I think it perfectly channels the surreal, allegorical, meta shit that's happening in the book in the best possible way. Like when I read the book, I was like, I don't know how they're going to adapt this. This is crazy. The meta-ness is impossible to adapt without it feeling like it's trying too hard. And yet in that first episode, I think Taika Waititi kind of nails the tone because you're constantly left guessing as to what's happening. And so for me, I really dug this insanity, this crazy, weird, shifting perspectives thing that kept happening. Jimmy O Yang's Willis is this waiter in the restaurant. He's yearning for a more exciting life. He witnesses a kidnapping. There is something that's going on with this black and white show, which is like a Law and Order TV series. And then Chloe Bennett plays this sexy detective. And we don't really know if she is a detective, but then she has something to do with Jimmy O Yang's brother who is dead. And then there's stuff going on with his family. And yet you don't know which of this is real and which of this is in his imagination and which interaction and conversation that he's having actually matters.
And I think it's also important to note that, yes, there are indications of light shift and there is also a black and white theme song, but it never implies, tells you, even just to hint at it may not be real. All of it felt real, just in a weird sort of way. Like there was one moment when he's standing in the middle of the city block and nothing is happening, and I'm just like, wait, that is strange. Is he dead?
But isn't that bit along with the bit towards the end of the first episode where they leave his house during the day and then they have a short conversation and then suddenly it's nighttime and he's like, wait, what time is it? Is that sunrise or sunset? What's going on? But all of these bits kind of play along with the tropes of what we see in procedural TV, right?
So that's what I mean, right? Like, I don't know, is Jimmy O Yang confused? Is Willis confused? Is Jimmy O Yang as Willis confused? I'm confused. So you know what it is it feels like one of those shows where I'm just gripping too hard. I'm trying to make sense as opposed to just letting it play out.
And I think if you let it play out, it will eventually explain itself.
Sure.
But what's interesting for me was even as I'm watching the first episode and they're doing these procedural drama tropes and really absurd dialogue that makes no sense except if you're in a TV show, and how that contrasts with the real world conversations, and I say real world in inverted commas, but real world conversations he's apparently having with his mother or father. And so I thought all of that was very interesting because it was crafting a mystery over a mystery. So like there is a mystery that's happening in the TV show with regards to the kidnapping, this mob thing that's happening, his brother's situation, Chloe Bennett's detective, all of that is like, oh, what's going on? And then there's a mystery layered on top of that with regards to the construction of this show and what it all means. Like, I'm like, whoa, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you're grasping too hard in trying to get it within that first 45 minutes.
Yes, it's me trying to work it out. It's me, my brain trying to work it out and then giving myself a headache because none of it's making sense.
Yes.
And then at the end, seeing Taika Waititi's name come up as director going, you fucking bastard, it's your fault.
I agree that sometimes the ideas and rules of the fantasy world that it's created seem a little confusing.
See, my problem is, until I spoke to you, I didn't see it as a fantasy world.
No, but didn't you see it as overlapping realities? Because as the color changes within the show as well, you can tell that it's reality and not, or maybe a different reality.
I just thought it was a joke. That was my problem, right? Like, I thought it was just a joke. Like, oh, look at these cops, these dummy dum-dums acting like they're in a police procedural. But then that joke kept happening and I'm like, wait, okay, so maybe it's not a joke. Maybe there's something here more than just that. Chloe Bennett says something in episode 2 where she talks about different jobs she's had. And I was like, wait, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? So because it hasn't played out, and because obviously I'm gripping too hard and trying to solve the problem ahead of the show, I'm finding myself more confused than I need to be. I think that's the problem.
I think one way to look at it is to approach every moment and every character you see in these first few episodes as concepts. Because that's how minority characters
Yes.
are often written in TV shows, especially Asian characters in American TV shows, where they are concepts or tropes. Hey, look, it's the tech guy. He's Asian. Hey, look, it's the doctor. He's Asian. Heck, even Gladiator 2 had an Indian doctor who saves the day. I mean, it's such a trope, but it exists. And I think maybe that's one way to look at it until the story fleshes them out. Because that's the whole idea in how we're seeing these secondary characters slowly rise to become primary characters.
Yeah.
I like the shift between the novel and this because in the novel, like I said, he wants to be a different kind of character in film. But the focus in the series is different because Jimmy isn't even the hero of his own story. And he wants to be the hero of his own story. He feels like a sub-side character even in his own life because his brother was the hero of his life. And I think that is an interesting shift. And I think that's something clever that Charles Yu has done in not being precious about his own novel and writing something that seems to fit the format of the medium that he's using, in this case, streaming television.
Can I also say the main reason I'm going to keep watching this is because of Ronnie Chang's Fatty Choi.
Ronnie Chang is fantastic in this.
Has he just gotten better as an actor?
I think so. But also, can I just say, Jimmy O Yang is so good in this. We've always seen him as the comic relief, Crazy Rich Asians type character.
For me, I go even way back. I first saw Jimmy Yang in Silicon Valley, where he literally plays a Chinese guy who doesn't say anything and is just angry constantly.
And in this one, I think there's real range.
Yes. I'm also really appreciating that both he and Ronnie Chang are given real characters to be. You know, they're not just the funny Asian guy.
They also have some fantastic chemistry between them.
They've got great chemistry and some great lines between them. So I'm really enjoying seeing these two guys lead a show. I think Ronnie Chang is in a position to do better things. Like I remember seeing the first episode of the new Doogie Howser remake. He wasn't great in that one. In the first couple of episodes, he was still very much comedian Ronnie Chang in guest appearance show.
Same with Megan.
Yeah, completely. Here, it's Ronnie Chang, the actor, which is great.
Just to address your concern, I'm trying to think if maybe it was worth doing some sort of reveal sooner.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if that would have worked because I think I'm enjoying this slow burn with regards to the reveal of what is actually happening.
I don't know if I want to reveal, but I think a clearer indication of something would be nice. For example, if that throwaway line from Jimmy Yang's character when they're at a upscale bar, if that's an indication of something, I would have liked more of that. Because those moments happen so few and far between that I'm not sure when the joke is on Jimmy Yang or when the joke is on me, the audience.
Whether you're being let into the joke or it's being played on you.
Yeah, so to me, that's where I am. There is a lot of the show that I love. I love what they're doing with the police procedural in air quotes. Everything, anytime those two guys show up, there are always funny bits there. And I love that. But it still feels awkward because I don't know where that joke is. There's a moment later on when they're going to go to the laundromat and the two police officers do a bit, right? They repeat a line. The entirety of that delivery makes it feel like a bit, but Willis is not sure if it's a bit. So who's unclear now? Where is the joke? It was moments like that that kept kicking me out of the show.
With that in mind, My
Yeah.
advice to anyone starting Interior Chinatown
Don't overthink it.
is to stick it out and don't overthink it. Because I think the payoff is worth it. And I think the show itself is crafted in such a clever manner with fantastic performances and just incredible production value that you're in for a real treat. So don't overthink it. Stick it out. This one is definitely worth your time. So check out Interior Chinatown. It's now streaming on Disney Plus Hotstar. If you're listening in the US, it's streaming on Hulu. Let us know what you think once you've seen it. You know how to reach out, Goggler MY, all of our social media feeds. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline, 012-524-5208. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.